Voices from the Mausoleum is brought to you by the You Run Podcast Network and yourunpodcast.com.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Voices from the Mausoleum, and welcome to another indie horror author interview. Today, I'm very excited to be chatting for the very first time ever on camera with author Marie LeStrange. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, me too. We have a lot of mutuals who have spoken very highly of you. We're very amped when they've got opportunities to meet you. So I've had nothing but great excitement around this chat. So I think there are some people looking forward to it as well.
Awesome.
We met pretty much, we connected, I think, through Twitter, right? I know we have a couple of mutuals, but just kind of that interaction of the book world on Twitter.
Yeah.
And you have a book coming out, which is why we're here. In addition to being an author, you're also an illustrator and a podcaster. The podcast name is Moths of the Flame, which is very cute. I love the title very much.
Thank you.
And before we jump into the book, I was hoping maybe to get to know you a little bit more and talk a little bit more about the podcast and what you do there.
Yeah, so I like to uplift the voices in the indie horror community because I mean, we know it's a grind at all times, you know. And I love people. I love chatting with people. It's something that it just brings me so much joy to hear what other people are doing and learning about them and asking fun questions and just having a conversation. So I thought about a year ago, it was actually something my hairdresser, shout out to her.
Yes, love it.
She and we thought, we're going to start a podcast together and we'll just interview all kinds of crazy things. You know, we had a mortician on and I've interviewed a psychic medium and just any kind of thing that like draws me in like a moth to the flame. Right.
Love that.
And then I've kind of niched down into indie horror just because we need the most uplift. Right. So I really, really enjoy it. I like doing that and the cover design and writing and graphic design, just lots of fun stuff going on.
Yeah. I don't think anybody in our community just does one thing, right? I think everybody does a bunch of stuff. Everybody. Yeah. It's like that everywhere. Yeah. It's interesting because like so my co-host and I, we focus on indie across the board. So we do, you know, like we also do filmmakers and stuff too, because like you said, we just believe in supporting the indie community. It's where our passion and our love kind of goes. We cover mainstream stuff too, but that is definitely like our heart and soul of the channel. So is uplifting anything indie. So that's awesome. Yeah. I saw the most recent episode, I think was part of an interview with a conspiracy theorist. Was that the last more recent one? I think that's the one I saw on. There's been more than that.
Oh no. Yeah, that was, so if you go to my YouTube channel, I think that's one of the first ones that pops up, but you have to go to playlists and then it's, the interview with a conspiracy theorist, that was like way back that was a year ago.
Oh, okay.
So yes, I'm trying to think who my very last one was. I usually do a lot of the Quill and Crow authors.
Okay.
So yeah,
very cool.
My brain is I don't remember who.
That's okay. Yeah, no, I'm gonna have all of Marie's links in the description for this episode, so you'll be able to find all of the things and check everything out. So the main reason we're here today is because you have a book coming out called Crimson Cobblestones.
Yeah,
which the title alone is just so elegant and I love it. It's such a pretty name. And that's the book that we're here to talk about. So just kind of want to jump into pretty much kind of some generic stuff. I just want to know, because I didn't get a chance to finish this before our chat, but I'm quite a ways into it. And I'm really enjoying it. It's very, very beautifully, poetically written. I love, there's some things in this that just like, I don't know, like I read them and I'm like, oh my God, that's so pretty. Like,
thank you. Thank you. I'm all about the vibes and the aesthetic and the
yes.
I just drink it up. I love it.
Yeah.
So I am a huge history nerd. Like, historian, genealogical research. Like, I'm a researcher at heart. My day life is focused on a lot of research. And so I made the jump from academic world into fiction world. And I read an article, and this was like 5 years ago, that talked about real life, how in 1998, they were doing a renovation of Benjamin Franklin's London home, and they found 19 skeletons in the basement. Like real life. And so everybody says, medical studies, anatomy studies. He had a partner that was involved in it. I'm like, what if boy was a serial killer?
What if it's a serial killer?
And so then I started researching old man, and he is not what the public, not, the pervasive, like the knowledge of surrounding him. He was a dirty little man. I mean, brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Sure.
One of the greatest minds to hit our time ever,
Yeah.
But he was a member of the Hellfire Club.
Yep.
And then further into researching the Hellfire Club, I found out that the founder of that was Sir Francis Dashwood, my ancestor. So yeah. So I was like, I have to write this book.
That's so cool. Yeah.
And even there are characters. So I tried to be as historically, quote unquote, accurate with, the time period and the language and just the cultural, all of that, but also the family members of Benjamin Franklin. He has an Aunt Bethshua in the book, and he had an Aunt Bethshua in real life, both who are involved or were involved in the Salem witch trials.
Yeah.
Like all of these really cool little historical pearls. And I really wanted to thread those into the book. I have a lot of historical Easter eggs hidden in there. And I just, it just strokes my little historical nerdy brain.
Yeah, I knew about the connection to the Hellfire Club, ironically only because of Ghost Adventures, but then I did learn more about it later on through my own, research and stuff, because they don't talk a lot about him and the connection, just that there is one.
Right.
And I actually was super into history when I was growing up. I did historical reenactments and stuff, but I didn't get into more of the darker sides of history until I was much older. So I definitely appreciate it. That's really cool.
Yes.
I don't have obviously a physical, so I have the description. Do you want to read? Do you have something on the back, or is it on the inside that has like a description? Do you want to read that? Yeah.
Yeah, I sure will. Sure. All right. 3 can keep a secret if 2 of them are dead, which is actually a quote from Benjamin Franklin, I might add. In the shadow of Benjamin Franklin's elite circles, Philadelphia 1739 is gripped by a series of grisly deaths, weaving a tale so dark it can only be whispered along the gaslit cobblestones. This masterful Gothic thriller is a mesmerizing blend of historical nuance and chilling suspense, where love intertwines with deceit and murder stains the street. At the center of this mystery is Charlotte, a young woman grappling with the violent loss of her mother. As the city's cobblestones run crimson with blood, she finds herself ensnared in a nightmarish realm of depraved cults and dark magic, uncovering a labyrinth of secrets that could spell doom for both she and her new enigmatic lover, Benjamin. With echoes of ancient incantations and the sinister plot of a Luciferian cult lurking in the shadows, she must navigate a world where the occult and her own haunted past are inextricably linked.
Yeah.
Crimson Cobblestones.
It's great. It's such a mix of genres too, because you've got the historical, you've got the thriller. There's some, at least from what I've read so far, there's some psychological stuff. There's gore. There's so there's a lot of things, and I think it's probably one of my favorite things about horror as a genre in general is just how easy it is to like combine these things, and you get to kind of experience all these different subgenres. Yeah. So outside of horror, do you have? And I know that you said you're big into history. Do you have another? Like when you're not reading or writing horror, like what's your go-to like genre?
Well, I also write smut. So
oh, that makes sense. I can see that. Okay.
If you've gotten far into the book, then you probably, yeah.
Fair enough.
Smutty, yeah,
fair enough.
So okay. Definitely the dark romance vibes. And yeah, I really do. I love historical fiction. I started out my whole reading journey through life until, high school. I wasn't allowed to read horror. I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies. I wasn't allowed to be a part of any of that at all. But I was allowed to consume fantasy. So I'm a hardcore epic fantasy fan. Yeah.
Okay. Is it because of like religious background or just fear that it would be too much?
Oh no, traumatic religious background. Yeah. That comes out in some of my other novels for sure. So
yeah,
therapeutic writing, absolutely. Oppressive, puritanical thoughts. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I grew up Southern Baptist, which is not quite the same thing, but is also sometimes like a cult. And
I was fundamentalist Baptist, independent Mary Baptist in the South. So we're like the holy rollers and the basically snake handling, not like I know snake handling people, but
yeah. And it can be it's interesting to think about the things that I was not allowed to listen to, watch, or anything. I remember it being a big deal when I wanted to paint my nails black, like stuff like that. You're just
devil stuff. My mom always used to say, it brings the devil into the home.
I can't
the devil into the home.
I know.
I'm like, that's it though.
That's it though. Usually just repressed emotions, I think.
I'm like, that is how I wasn't allowed to have a natural hair color, all that kind of thing. I'm like, that's how you end up with a 32-year-old like this. That's what happens. Like,
that's the best way to be. Yeah, you grow up and you're like, I can finally do all the things I want. Actually, my nails are black right now. It's so funny that you say that. It's like, but it is. I got like, as soon as I moved out, I started getting tattoos, my nose ring. Yep. Like, I was just like, now I can be who I want. I can express myself how I want. Yeah. That's so true. Yes. No, that's so true. And I know you do art. So did you do the cover for this?
I sure did.
I love it. Yeah. I want to kind of talk about your visuals, or, did you have like a specific vision? Did you know what you wanted with this?
Yes. So I'm heavily inspired by Jack the Ripper, and just
I knew it. Yeah. I knew it. I got like through the first chapter and it was like screaming Jack the Ripper to me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
And so then if you think of Jack the Ripper vibes, you're thinking of nighttime, walking through the streets. Yes. And I knew that I wanted cobblestones, and Crimson Cobblestones has been the name forever. And so I thought, okay, I need something with blood on cobblestones. And I started out with just cobblestones and blood. I kept playing with it, and then I'm like, I need to add a building in here and some street lamps. And then I thought, what is a central item, something that really follows as a symbol throughout the book. I don't know how far, if you've gotten into the Rosicrucianism and all of that.
I think just started and getting
okay. Into and so the rose is a big symbol within that whole society, and rose, and the Victorian language of flowers is heavily prevalent in the book as well. And so not only does later on they talk about it, the characters talk about the language of the flowers, but then also every time a flower appears in the text anywhere, it correlates to the real language of the flowers. And so if you like the Easter eggs, and so if I mention white lilies or whatever, then I'm trying to just sneakily say, this person's not good,
Yeah, there's a reason. Yeah. This, because then this has the details in the background are perfect. The focal point being the flower, of course. And then you've got this little guy sitting up at the very top. Like, there's just a lot there's a lot there. It's like, you first look at it, right, and you think, oh my God, that's so elegant looking. And then you're like, okay, that's blood, and then the longer you look at it, the more you see,
what
layers.
Is doing up here?
Yeah. But it's a great balance though of the elegance, like I said, and the horror side though. It's like you're not, I don't think that you're going to pick this up and not know that kind of what you're getting into.
Right. I wanted to convey again the vibes of, I wanted to draw in those historical like I kind of had a thought of who the audience would be, but then when they saw it and then saw the blood, and then it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm a little intrigued here. And then the cobblestones, that gives you that historical element. And then I thought that would get them enough to read the back. And then the back.
Then that's when you get them on the plan. Yeah. No, I think the cover is stunning.
Thank you.
When this is out on physical, I intend to get one, even though I have a digital version, because I do think it's very stunning. And because of the version I got, I've also seen how gorgeous the inside of this thing is. So like all the images and stuff. Yeah, here, let me move this so you can show them. Yeah.
Yes.
So there's like from
I did all of the internal as well. Beautiful. And I'm very proud of my chapter pages.
I love the chapters. They're so cute. Yes, I love that.
I think one of the funniest parts of this, though, and the whole reason that the internal art came to be, because I usually am an oil painter, and so using like digital media, that's been a different thing for me. And then also trying to navigate, you know, especially so much stock art and even things now it's infiltrated by like AI. Like,
yes.
So I had to tread very carefully, you know, making sure that I had everything original. But it all started from I have a dinner scene in the beginning of the story, right? And there are lots and lots of characters in there. And a lot of my beta readers were like, I'm getting confused because there's a lot of characters. And I'm like, you know what? I would like a seating chart. So I thought,
I love that.
I'm going to make a seating chart that kind of has where all of the characters are sitting so they can reference back to it, because me and my ADHD brain, I need things like this, you know?
Visuals are good. Yeah, I get that.
I'm like, if I have one, then I have more. And I also put, this was originally, this was an iteration of the cover long ago too. There were about 10 covers that came before this one. So
that sounds about right. No, the inside. Yeah, I love the inside, and I know it's got to be even better in person, but even in a digital sense, it's stunning. Like I was just like, oh my God, like, you know, I'm always blown away with what, you know, indie creatives are able to do with those types of things, because I feel like if I buy like I don't even know what the big term for popular books is anymore, like a bestseller from New York Times or whatever. They're so boring. Like you go into the inside of the book and it's like, you know, who cares? Like,
well, because they don't take the time to really like, you know, they're trying to produce these things. But then again, I'm like, it takes years to put these things out because they have so many books coming along. And that was another reason, you know, I didn't query Crimson widely at all. And I didn't even send it to maybe one or two small presses. And I had one, I had two that were very seriously considering it. But long before I even got into talks with anybody, I pulled everything out because I wanted to do the interior myself. I started having these ideas for the art and for the design. And I was like, I kind of want to have the creative control there. So then I never looked back.
I get it. I've only done self-publishing for my own stuff, and then like the anthologies that I put out, I am technically the publisher, but I think I have a control issue. I don't want any say over, because like I know there's people who go to different places, different smaller presses, and like they don't have control over the cover and they don't have it. I'm like, no. I need to have all of the control.
I like it that way too.
So you did the formatting for this as well.
I did typesetting, the whole
everything.
I have had to learn so much. Oh my God. In design, it was my nemesis for a while. Now we are one. We are good. I am okay.
I would not categorize this as a simple formatting job. There's a lot to this. So that was going to be my next question, was how, like, was that a big part of the time spent? Like, did you have to spend a ton of time on just the formatting?
You know, honestly, probably not as much as you would be thinking.
Oh, well, that's good.
Because I wanted to learn how to use the program and set up like parent pages and that sort of thing. So once I was able to figure it out, how to recreate it, then it went a lot faster. Putting my own art inside, just a lot of that part was annoying. That part was rough. And then also because, you know, even if I do a fixed format for the ebook, then of course it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So then I had to do a whole other format for the ebook. And then it just, you know, hardcover had to be totally different. So like, that was where I got into the weeds. And I'm like, I see why the trad publishers don't spend all of this time doing this, but this was my book baby. And it taught me how to do it so that, you know, I do anthologies now too with the Sinister Society, but I'm able to do the formatting I'm able to be a little more creative with the formatting in those books because now I know what to do.
So I don't format anything. I usually, so far, my only formatting experience is what Kat Valor has told me when she's ready to set her computer on fire.
I know. I love Kat.
Yeah. Today,
struggling in digital world lately. Bless her. Gosh,
I know. And I hate it so much because in the process of one of the things that she's working on is one of our projects, which literally like after we record this, I'm jumping into the live for that. But
yes, release day. Woo!
Yeah, it is release day. Yeah. So, but I keep like I'm trying to be helpful and motivate her because I'm like, like I know this is a pain in the ass, but you are doing such a great job, and this looks so amazing. And meanwhile, she's like, yeah, I know it's driving her nuts.
Yeah. And she does a lot of the and I'm like that too. I want to try unique formatting, different styles. I know she does, like with the text messages and things like that. I like to experiment with those things too. And she and I geek out over that kind of stuff. We love it. Yeah.
I know. It's so funny because, and I think we're all like this about our own things, but I know like recently she was like, I'm probably going to be done with formatting. And then I got like a message yesterday, the day before. She's like, I've got some really good ideas for your werewolf anthology. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah. We think we walk away and then it's like, just come back.
Yeah, I think, but yeah, no, I look when I remember like first couple of chapters thinking like there's no way this was easy to format because of the images and the chapters and but it like again it's absolutely, it looks beautiful. It looks so good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Outside of having to learn things and doing formatting, did you have challenges when you were actually writing the story? Because this is a chunkier book. It's not super small. There's a lot going on. And I imagine if I'm where I'm at now, if there's already a lot going on, I'm imagining it only gets even crazier. Were there a lot of challenges or bumps or blocks, kind of along the journey?
Well, I like to ruminate over my ideas for a long time before I ever start to plot them. Okay. And then now granted, this was the first novel I ever wrote. Okay. And so I had a lot of editing passes. I've had a lot of help with this book. Okay. And, but when I read that article about Benjamin Franklin and the 19 skeletons, within 48 hours, I had every scene plotted for the entire book. So I had about 55 scenes plotted out because I'm like that. I have I do spreadsheets and it's honestly psychotic. Like, I literally have 32 spreadsheets per novel. Like it's insane.
Oh, dang. Yeah.
Because I love to keep up with the colloquialisms that the characters use and their characteristics and all this shit. Again, because of object permanence, I have learned with my neurodivergent brain, I gotta have it. They'll end up with a different color of hair, a different name, or who knows what, And so
I get that. Yep.
Yeah. So that actually, I stayed pretty close to what I had plotted out. Okay. I did do some in that 48 hours, which was insane. It was like over a spring break or something. I mean, I just had literally 48 hours to do it. It was wild. I'm very visually inspired. Okay. And I don't think I've ever actually talked about this publicly before, but a part of my process, I call it the book recipe, is I like to watch very similar movies because obviously there are books that I like to read to kind of prep me for the vibes that I'm going for. Yeah. But then also the same with movies. And what I will do is, this sounds so insane. I will go scene by scene and I will mention, what is like, where are we at plot wise? What do we look like visually? A light scene or a dark scene? What's the pacing like in that scene? And then where are we as far as character arc and character emotions? Is it a happy scene? Is it a sad scene? Whatever. And so I started making a whole graph comparing Sleepy Hollow and Crimson Peak and, just different, like you can tell that these films inspired my novel a lot because those vibes, I started noticing the same patterns in light and dark and fast and slow and all of these things, along with the plot pacing. And so, I know that sounds psychotic, but that's how it came to be. So that's a lot. There's a lot of research, but that's what gives me joy in the whole part of it. Like I love writing, but all of that front end stuff, the pre-search is chef's kiss. I love it.
Yeah, no, I recently spoke to Catherine Silva about her newest release, and she had said something about one of her techniques that I had never heard anybody talk about either, which was that she'll watch YouTube videos when she has to write like a male character or dialogue from a male character's perspective, that she'll watch YouTube videos and analyze the way the men interact and how they speak. And I'm like, and it's so crazy because everybody's process is so different. No matter if you have similarities or not, nobody's stuff is exactly the same.
No.
And that's interesting because like it's the same thing as like when you ask people like, oh, like, do you listen to music? And some people can't listen to music when they write. Some people, yeah. And see,
Not
like,
at all.
and I like it's so crazy just to hear people talk about their creative process because we all, I mean, everybody does their own thing. Their stories are everybody's story is vastly different. The things that people do are different. And it's so interesting to hear the approach because I would have never thought to dissect a film in that way as far as the, comparing it and using graphs in that way. But I think that makes sense though. I think that's a super logical move. I'm probably too lazy to do that, but it is very like
it almost makes it like scientific or mathematical.
It does. It's like a formula. No, I love that
recipe. I intend to publish that as a craft book one day, cool. But we'll get there. We'll get there. We got time.
Yeah. Sleepy Hollow is a good one too. And then I also thought when I was reading through, especially in the beginning for some reason, and I think this kind of goes back to what we're talking about with Jack the Ripper, is that oh my God, what's the Johnny Depp movie about Jack Ripper with Bilbo Baggins? Something hell, right? It's like
yes, it's hell
something. I can't think of.
I don't remember, but yes.
there's some things that have to do with like the angles or like especially like more so like without giving too much away, like the first little bit of story that we're getting in the very beginning, just the way that the streets and things are kind of described, it just made me kind of feel like I was in that movie too. Like there was moments where I was like using some of those visuals. I was like, okay, I can kind of see like.
And you know what's interesting? You're like the fifth person to tell me that, and I've never actually seen that movie.
Never?
I haven't seen it, so that's why I don't know the name. But everybody says you've got to watch it because you would love it. Like,
I think it's called. I think it's called From Hell or In Hell or
yes. And Johnny's in it, and
it's From Hell came out in 2001. I had to look it up. Sorry, that's
wow.
Yeah, and yeah, and it's got the guy that plays Bilbo Baggins. I know he's done other stuff. Nobody come for me, but that's who he is to me.
Me too. Yeah.
I mean, that's who he will be. Yeah, that's forever in my brain. That's who he'll be. And then the main lead, the female lead is, I'm drawing a blank on her name too. I'm not very good at those details, but that was kind of what it made me think of. Cause I think like, stories, anything involving Jack the Ripper is super interesting. So I think that was like a natural go-to for me, even though it's very different. It's not like this is like a Jack the Ripper story. It was just enough to kind of get me
kind of that psychological. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like worse though, because
yeah. So let me say that I know I've made that reference. It's not a Jack the Ripper story in no way, shape, or form, but that was just as far as the visuals. Those were kind of some of the things that like helped me kind of picture what I was looking at and stuff. But one of the other really like super cool things, I was like, I saw you post about this and I was like, no fucking way. This is so cool. So there is, or is going to be, I'll let you fill in the blanks here, a board game.
There is a board game.
It is a board game. Look at that. That's insane.
And it's so fun. So it's a whole ass real
That's so
game.
Cool.
And the whole reason this came about, and I have not started producing it yet. I really need to. It's been on the back burner, unfortunately. But the Books of Horror Facebook group was having they were going to have a merch creation contest. And people could put together teams and they could all decide they were going to have one merch item. And I was like, one boot, like I already have a clothing store and all the, I have all of these items I like to put out. And so then I thought, what would be unique and like all encompassing, something really, really cool? Well, why don't I just do a board game that centers around the places in my book? And what's fun about it, and what's actually hilarious about it, is that in game testing it and, going through the whole process, we had my father-in-law playing the game with us, my husband and I, my husband who's read the book a bajillion times, and my father-in-law who's never read the book. Okay. And so I drew all of my little, all of my little murder weapons, my characters. And actually, little fun side note, another Easter egg, those characters from the board game, I took the image that I ended up creating for the cover, and in the inside, I added those characters into the
art.
I
gotta go back and look at it now. Okay.
So those are the characters from the board game, which are the characters in the book.
Okay.
Yeah. And so but with my father-in-law, he's never read the book, and he beat us playing the game. Because there's 2 tracks that you can play. You can either choose a riddle, and a lot of them are historical based riddles, and riddles are a big theme in the book as well. Yeah. And so if you can get those riddles correct, you could wipe the floor with people that literally wrote the book. I was like, I did not win. Like, are we serious?
This can't happen.
And we would argue about the answers, and I'm like, no, it's this. And like, I wrote the damn thing, and still, yeah. And I made the game. Like, I didn't know the answers. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. The games are really expensive to produce though. Ooh. And so I haven't decided if I'm going to do a Kickstarter or if I'm just going to put it up in my store. I haven't decided yet. I mean, I really I don't know. I don't need to do a Kickstarter if I put it up in my store because it's already done. I have all the the manufacturing is there. It's all set and ready to go. So did that for the merch contest that kind of happened, but not really. There was like one post, and I think only like 4 people saw it, and I'm like, I spent months developing a game. No.
You went like all out,
all out. Yeah, I was like, okay, you're gonna make a mug, I'm gonna make a whole thing. Like,
and there's no competition really, because this is it. Yeah.
Well, I was like, I'm gonna win, and then it didn't really pan out, and I'm like, oh well, at least I have this cool board game. So. Yeah. Maybe watchers, listeners, you guys will now know it will be in my store soon.
Yeah, I love horror board games, especially when I saw you post that, I was like, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, because nobody else has ever done that. That's hella unique. Like, I love that idea, and I love playing games. Like, I like video games too, but I do really like board games, and so I thought that was so cool. And I think in general, like. I think if I say that was like the first thing I saw in regards to Crimson Cobblestones, that would intrigue me enough to make me look into it more. Right. Because that's such a unique concept. I'm surprised they're super expensive to make. I know they sell them for super. Board games are crazy expensive.
I know. Well, and that's the thing is when you're producing a small number, and that's why I thought about doing the Kickstarter, because the more that I can sell at one time, then the less expensive it is to produce.
Right, exactly.
And so like I ordered 2 of these games, and actually I had a third one that was a previous iteration. Again, another, had to check it, didn't like it, went back to the drawing board.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so I to buy 2 of those, I mean, it was over $200. And so, but and you don't want your retail cost to be that high. And so if I was just ordering it by individual games, it's expensive. I mean, it's like $70, $80 to produce. But if I order 100 games, then it's like $25, So that's kind of why I'm like, oh, I need to do like a mass order or a Kickstarter or something, because I just don't want people to have to, like, the production cost is so much for just individual games. That's crazy. So
yeah. And I think, especially given the community that we're both a part of, like everybody's balling on a budget. So, and it's not that you don't want them to have it, but it has to be, I mean, the end is like, you can be as excited and passionate about your project and want people to have it, but there still has to be something in return. Like there has to be.
And I don't want them to have to spend that's crazy. Yeah. I'm thinking, in today's climate, would I want to spend $85 on a board game? No, and that's how they are expensive. They're very expensive these days, but I just wanted it to be more fiscally. That's why it hasn't rolled out large.
I get you. Yeah. Well, it looks awesome.
Thank you. I love it. It's fun. It's a fun game, and it's quick.
You said there's 2 paths. One is more riddle based. So what is the other one? Is the other one just more like
it's trivia from the book?
It's trivia. Okay.
Yeah. So there's like 35 questions that are book based, and then there's 35 riddles, and so the game moves pretty quickly. Yeah.
No, that's really, really cool. Yeah, the game concept is just like blew me out of the water.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll blow your mind further.
Please
So
do.
I am, you can tell I'm a techie. I really enjoy technology. And so I am working currently on an immersive, like augmented reality, well, virtual reality.
Virtual reality. Yeah.
Yeah. And so where you can sit among a Crimson Cobblestones type of like surround, like the 360 surround.
Yeah.
And then listen to the story. And I'm thinking about I haven't decided yet if I'm going to record myself reading it, but it'll be like an immersive audiobook experience. How cool is that?
That is super cool.
Yeah.
And like this is stuff like when you come up with the ideas, or these things where you have to like look up how to do them, right? Like you're like, okay, so I want to do a board game. I don't have no idea where to start. Now I've got to look into it. Or like with doing the VR kind of idea, like are these things, these like tools or software or whatever you want to say, things you're familiar with already, or you just come up with the idea and then you're like, I got to figure this out?
I am what they call a multi-passionate person.
Okay.
So I am the type that I'm like, you know what? I can do that. I'm going to do that. And so I come up with the idea, and I don't limit my ideas in any way. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And it's the researching part that comes into play there, because I will research and ruminate and learn all the things, even just because I like to learn. I just enjoy learning. It's fun. Yeah. And so then learning these new skills with new programs, I said augmented first because I did an augmented little character to go with my T is for Torture book. So you could pull it up and you could literally take a picture of the cover, and then you could how they do Pokemon Go, where it's like it's standing in your living room. My little character could stand in your living room. Like, it was so cool. I love stuff like that. Like, my problem is just like continuing to follow through with it, because once I've done it, I'm like, okay, on to the next
thing.
Yeah.
And it adds a lot to the situation when you're adding those elements to books, because I don't think that's like, not everybody's mindset goes in those directions when they're thinking of putting out stories, books, novels. And so and
I should say, I do have the Oculus Quest 2. Like we have virtual reality. Like it's not that I said, oh, I want to go to do virtual reality and didn't know anything.
Oh,
about
no.
it. I
got
virtual reality games. Like I'm familiar with it. Yeah. So, but as far as the creation part of it, that's been a whole.
You got to learn how to do that.
That's hard. The 3D rendering and all that shit. That is hard.
I know. I had a friend one time that was into, I forget what the official title of the degree is, but basically she was making video game assets. And she's like, yeah, this is a barrel I made. It took me like 2 months. I was like, you are shit. And meanwhile, I'm over here like, why haven't they come out with the next game for this, whatever? It's like, because it takes
forever. Well, and my husband, Marie LeStrange, also a horror writer. Yeah. He has 2 separate 3D printing machines.
Okay.
And that, so I was like, oh, I'm going to, he obviously you can like buy all these pre-made designs for it and stuff. And that's super cool and fun. But I was like, I'm going to make my little character. I'm going to make my little, my little LeStrange from my ABC books. And, this will be fun. You can print this out. And then like, I'm realizing my character has this ginormous fucking head and a tiny little body. And I'm trying to figure out how to make it so that she can like stand up. And oh my gosh, those people that deal with 3D stuff all the time, that is hard.
Yeah. My ex-husband had a 3D printer. It was one of his Christmas gifts one year. And it was like
Christmas gifts. Yeah.
It could do the coolest stuff, but like neither one of us ever like dived into it. We just went onto a website and like found the things, and you put them on the thing, and then you stick them in there, and then it makes it, right? It's like, I can't, like, the stuff that people make. Like I can watch TikToks of that shit for hours of people just like coming up with their own designs, tweaking them, changing them, doing multicolor things. And you're just like, what?
Have you seen the ones where they make the giant stuff for their yard? Like the giant dinosaurs and like, people are wild. They'll make like like pieces and then put it all together into these huge sculptures. And I'm just like, blown away.
Yeah.
Well, I love it though.
It's cool. I said most of the stuff I watch is either D&D related Or I watch the people that do cosplays. So they build out parts of their suits and then they put them together because that's more lightweight than like some of the other options for materials, depending on what you're trying to do. Right.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing I've ever seen was like I don't know, like 1,000-piece like dragon, but it was more for like it wrapped around something. I think it was like a building or something, but they already had one part of it, and then they had to do the dragon in sections, of course. And then you know this because you're familiar with it. They have to assemble it and put everything together. And it's like this whole, but they did it from nothing. Like they designed it in the whatever the fucking I don't know, the program, and then they make it. And then when that doesn't work, after hours of waiting for it to print, days maybe, like it doesn't work. So you got to start. Oh, I don't have to know.
Awful. Well, and that's the thing too. You talk about the program, and there's always 10,000 million programs as options. Yeah. And that is the worst for me, the eternal learner, because I'm like rabbit hole. Like I have to learn about everything to then make sure I'm making the right choice. And then I'm like, oh my God, that is limiting for me because I'm always
a lot.
Like,
yeah.
It's like when you're in a restaurant and you have a 10-page menu. I'm like, I just need 1 page.
Why is it so big?
Like, yeah. Give me 3 options. I can deal with that. Yeah.
I will starve before I make a decision. Yeah. No, I completely understand. Yeah, I'm super, the board game concept is so cool. I'm excited. Maybe I can get you to send me some pictures of it to put up in post edit.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
To share. Just because I do think it's such a cool concept. So,
thanks.
One of the other things I wanted to ask, we probably can't dive too much into this because we don't want anything spoiled or anything, but I just wanted to ask this in general for people who watch in the future who have either already read it or are going to read it when it comes out on physical. Because that's the other thing. It's out on Kindle. You can get the ebook now, right?
Yes.
But the physical is June 11th.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
And people that have seen me at cons for the last like 3 months, they've all been getting copies.
Yes.
Just like doing pre-release copies, which I felt like was really fun. You know, I thought the book is done. It's here. I have control over it. Might as well, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and that has been a lot of fun. And especially people that have read it on KU and then they see me at, you know, at an event and they're like, oh my God, I get to read the book. Like I get to hold it in my hand.
Something different about that.
That is so fun. Aww. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. So it's up on KU, all Kindle Unlimited already and the ebook available. But then the beautiful paperback and hardcover, jacketed hardcover copy will be coming out in June.
As fancy as it should be. Yeah, totally.
That's right. I know I've got to find a good distributor that can do some sprayed edges for me because I think that it needs some gold edges. Don't you think?
Okay. Yeah.
It deserves it. Yeah.
Yeah. Is your hardcover through KDP, or are you gonna have like, are you doing them print from like a local like I know some people will do like certain things through like KDP, or they'll have certain stuff on just Amazon, or they'll use other things, but then for like special things like that, they'll find either local resources or something like that to print it.
Right. So I use KDP and Ingram. And I like to have that wide distribution, but Ingram doesn't have like a lot of the fancy like foil cover and sprayed edges and that sort of thing. And so I'm looking at like Book Baby, and there's a couple of different places that will do foil covers, but then they won't do sprayed edges. And so it's like, you have to kind of figure out which one is going to work for what you want. Cause I think a foil cover would be really beautiful with this one too. So I have the jacketed hardback is through Ingram, I believe. And then, but I'm planning on doing a special, you know, sprayed edges and then the foil cover, because it needs to be foiled.
I can totally see that with the gold and the colors and stuff. Yeah, that'd be stunning. Yeah, I know. Like I like local places, it would be great to support, but they just can't offer the pricing, and that's the biggest thing. Is, you know, most of the people who are trying to go to them are also in the smaller communities, and they can't spend, you know, $40 to print one book. Like we can't do it, you know? And they're like, well, if you buy 10,000, you know, right. It's like,
like then make it worth it. But like, who in indie world can do that up front?
Hell,
like,
nobody. If those of us in the indie community were like that, we wouldn't be here asking you these questions. We would just have somebody doing it for us.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things I wanted to ask, and it's like, if you can't dive into the depths of maybe why, because we don't want to give spoilers away, that's cool. But I wanted to know if you had a favorite character in the book.
Oh my goodness. I think oof, that's tough.
There's no right or wrong answer. You can
there's definitely not.
I love them all.
I think my favorite, my favorite character to write is the unnamed serial killer throughout the book.
I can see that. Okay.
I love that. That whole diving into that POV was just so twisted and demented and fun and like different than my regular voice, so it was just really dark and fun. But my favorite character, I think, is Aunt Beshua. I just that old bitch. I just I just like her. I can't help it. I don't know what that says about me that both of my favorite characters are villains and like not, but oh well.
No, I think in the horror world, I think that makes sense. That's normal. I don't think that's anything.
They're more fun. They're just more fun.
Yeah.
I don't support their actions, even though I wrote them. It's fine.
different things. Yep.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I think she's definitely my favorite character for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then I wanted to ask, where are some other things that you draw inspirations from? Not necessarily maybe with just Crimson Cobblestones, but just horror inspirations in terms of other media, whether it's books or film. Is there anything else that you typically gravitate towards when you're writing or reading things?
So I'm going to sound like a broken record, but again, it's the history.
It's just the history.
Yeah. So my next novel that will be coming it's now Crimson taught me how to write a book, right? Okay. Carving Croatoan is my Lost Colony of Roanoke with Witches book.
Oh,
and it is it's so good. I love it. But it was inspired because I found out that my 14th great grandfather, so direct descendant, this man was the governor of the Lost Colony of Roanoke. And so I was like, well, shit, have to write that book now too. So
that's crazy. Yeah.
And so I started researching even more of my ancestry, and we had a couple of like William and Mary Brewster who end up as characters in that book. They were a part of the original colony that came over. And then, I have another side of my family that is Cherokee Indian. And that was a huge part of my life growing up. And then I come to find out that a lot of the Cherokee Nation, comes from the Croatoan Indians that were very close to that whole thing. I mean, it's all very, very, very cool. So I gravitate again towards that. That was a whole other largely researched. And I actually, I just got an invitation the other day to come to the Screamiverse. It's like the inaugural Screamiverse. They're having a horror conference in Roanoke. And so I'm like, well, now I have to put that book out and I'm going to have to release it that weekend. Like I just,
I love that though. Yeah.
So it's always history for me. And I'm also working on, what I'm currently writing right now is a sapphic, gender-bent retelling of The Picture of Dorian Gray with vampires. So,
all of those things sound good. I'm excited.
There's reincarnation and Basil's a vampire. Like, it's so
very
fun.
Cool.
It's so fun.
Yeah. So, very cool.
That's my vibe.
My last thing is technically just for Kat Valor, which is a true or false question. True or false? You love being told a reader was picturing the Ben Franklin impersonator from The Office during the spicy scene.
I know so many people. They're like, "Do you have a Benjamin Franklin fetish? Like, what is wrong with you?" And I'm like, "No, read the book. It's a young and sexy version, not that old white-haired glasses fucker. Like,
hairline starts back here."
I've had people that have read it. They're like, "All I could think about was that," and I'm like, "But read the book. Read the book." So, I mean, if that's what gets you going, like,
hey, what, right? It's like, as long as you enjoy the book, whatever works.
You know who I was imagining in my head while writing all of the Benjamin Franklin scenes? I don't know his name, but that sexy dude that played Lucifer on the
show,
TV show. Yeah.
That
kind of dark, mysterious, like, that is who I pictured.
That's not even close to
not the wig man. No.
I told her I had to ask, because I messaged her because I was like I typically have been trying to make sure I read through something before I sit down and chat, because I want to make sure that I have enough, meat to the question and the conversation. And so so I said, I had messaged her and I said, you've met Marie? And she was like, yeah, oh my God, love her, like so nice. And I was like, do you think she'll be offended if I didn't have time to read the book? And she was like, no, but she will be offended if.
Yes. I know. I'm like, it's not that one. It's not that one. I'll tell you what's funny is Kat went into reading that book blind.
Oh,
she did not even know anything about it. And I'm like, what a great book to do that with, because you're like, what the fuck? What is happening? What is going on in this book? Who, Benjamin? Whoa, buddy. Whoa. And that's my favorite reaction to the book. I want people to be like, what was that I just read?
That is so funny though. Yeah. And it's so funny. Like, okay, so obviously, like, I guess I don't know why that didn't occur to me to think about in that way, but that was not what I was thinking in mind. I wasn't thinking like old, like pictures from like, the Family Guy episodes, or like, I wasn't thinking stuff like that. So, and I'm grateful that my brain didn't take it there, because I can see it having to take a second, like, okay, hold on. I have to regroup. I got to change my thoughts.
No. Well, and I think that hopefully speaks to the writing and the description of the book, because I talked about Ben, because his little chin and it was all the sexiness. And then I even looked up pictures of the younger Benjamin Franklin, and I there's only a couple that exist. And I was like, okay, when I draw the character for the board game, I want to make it look more, like I really do want to try to make it look like him, and not so sexy. So we just and I did go to his gravesite in Philly, and I had a little chat with him, and I was like, I'm sorry for doing this, but I want you to know that I portray you as a very handsome man. It was pouring the rain, and I swear to God, I was standing there talking to Benjamin Franklin's grave. How fucked is that? Felt like I needed to apologize.
I'm so glad I brought that up. Totally worth it.
That's man, the trivia behind this book, it's just never ending for sure.
But you know what? It makes for fun, and it definitely made for an entertaining conversation about it. So what more could you really ask for? It made for great writing, a great story, good conversation about it. And it's like, what more could you really ask?
No. And that when I'm at cons and people are, walking by, and I'm going to be like a succubus and suck them in. And my opening line is, well, this is Benjamin Franklin as a serial killer in a sex cult. And then they're like, what? Like, come to me. Let me tell you about the book. Like, I mean, it's the greatest opening line,
I think it works. It definitely gets, it would catch I would be like, wait, what did you just say? Yeah. It'll cut through any other noise, that's present at the time.
For sure. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. It's fun.
That's good. Yeah. Well, cool. I'm going to probably try to get this out close to release day. So that might be good to be, hopefully to help kind of promote it and get people's eyes on it.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you again this was a great conversation. I had so much fun talking to you.
I'm so glad. I feel like that's my reputation. People are like, oh, Marie, she's wild. Like,
yeah. I want to talk to her more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to keep it fun. I like enjoying things and talking to people. I just love it. So
yeah. No, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on, for sure.
Yeah, of course. Welcome back anytime. Yeah. And thank you everybody for hanging out with us. Once again, all of Marie's links and where you can find my cat is like had enough of my recording, and she's like pushing stuff everywhere. I'm trying to keep my set up from falling over. It's been like a thing lately. She used to not ever come up here, and now she's like up here all the time.
He wants to be on the pod. She's like, I am your co-host.
I need my own segment, actually. Yes. But anyway, but yeah, so I'll put all the links below to where you can find Marie on socials, as well as where you can get a copy of, well, because I'll have this go out. So the day that this goes out, you'll be able to get a physical, and you can either do paperback or the jacketed hardcover.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on this episode of Indie Horror Author Interviews. Hope you have a good rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you in the next one.